Joining us now to speak further about this, South Carolina Republican Congressman Mick Mulvaney, a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Mick, it's so good to have you along here. Now, I understand you were not completely pleased. In fact, you had an amendment set up to defund Mr. Obama's executive action on amnesty, but the Rules Committee and the leadership will not allow a floor vote on your amendment. Why not?
My guess is because it would pass. We did offer an amendment to the Rules Committee last night that would defund the executive amnesty, and my guess is that if it brought to the floor, it would pass, perhaps overwhelmingly, because there's even some Democrats who are privately very frustrated with what the president has done. Not necessarily, they're not as upset about the outcome as they are about the process. But face it, what my leadership will say, if it passes, then it can't pass the Senate. We have a government shutdown, and goodness gracious, we can't have that. So we can't have anything that might lead us down that road. So we're not going to give you a vote on your amendment.
Mick, in your opinion, is House leadership or the collective Republican leadership intent on snatching defeat from the jaws of victory based on that big midterm win, what, a month ago?
When we talk about this very candidly amongst ourselves here, and what they'll tell you is, look, we're just as angry as you are. We want to have the fight in January or February instead of today. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but that's not what you said the day that the president gave his speech. You didn't say we were going to fight tooth and nail in January. You didn't say we were going to do everything we can to stop this in January. You just said we were going to fight it. And this is the first chance we have to fight it. We're missing that opportunity. I think it once again makes the establishment wing of the party look out of touch with folks back home. There are people here, myself included, who are just as angry as you and the folks back home over what the president did. And we think it's incumbent upon ourselves to try and do everything that we possibly can. We did that last night, and we just don't have enough numbers on the Rules Committee to get that done.
Mick, for his part, Speaker Boehner talked about the spending bill's impact on immigration, at least the way he sees it. Let's listen and get your reaction.
Without a threat of a government shutdown, this sets up a direct challenge to the president's unilateral actions on immigration when we have new majorities in both chambers of Congress. This is all part of preparing for a new American Congress, which will bring new opportunities to help middle-class families and get our economy moving again.
So, Mick, let's say it moves forward here, and even there's something to that clause about no Homeland Security spending. What does this do in essence? Is there money devoted, appropriated in this package that does fund some semblance of amnesty, at least until the next the review of the next Homeland Security budget?
Oh, listen, that's a great question, because I'm going to surprise you with the answer. No. There's no money in here to fund what the president is doing. The difficulty that I and so many other conservatives have is that we're not taking any steps to defund it. And I know that sounds like it's somewhat circular, but we don't even know where the president's going to take some of this money from. We are not appropriating money so that he can do it. Our difficulty is we are not taking steps to prevent him from doing it. This is the first chance we have to do this, and we're not taking it. John Boehner's point would be, if the government shuts down, then the amnesty can proceed. And he's absolutely 100% right. I never thought for a second that we had the votes to defund the amnesty right now, because the Senate is still Democrat. Most people think that the Senate changes right the day after the election. You and I both know it doesn't. We don't have the votes to defund it right now, but we gave up without a fight, and that is what's so troubling to me and to other conservatives. Now, we send the message that we don't care, and that bothers me.
The nature of your amendment, we've heard talk that Jeff Sessions and some other folks said it was a writer to explicitly state, Mr. President, you can't spend any of these funds on executive changes in immigration. Is that essentially what your amendment was? 30 seconds here.
That's exactly what my amendment was, yes.
And so they rejected that out of hand in Rules Committee. 20 seconds. Rules Chairman Pete Sessions last week talked about, hey, we're not going to depart anybody unless they're really violent felons. Is your fear that the Republican establishment basically lining up with the Obama administration to bring forward a de facto amnesty here, Mick Mulvaney?
We'll find out. The procedural excuses they give for not fighting now go away in January. We'll know the answer in January, and if we give up again then, like many of us fear we do, we'll know the answer to that question.
Well, thankfully, you are not going away, Mick Mulvaney. Thanks for hanging in. On the other side of this break, we'll talk more about this spending bill and the implications. Stay with us here on America's Forum. Let's continue our conversation with South Carolina Republican Mick Mulvaney, who serves on the Financial Services Committee. So, Mick, this is right up your alley. It seems, based on what I've heard, this is a note where many on the right and the left are united. They are suspicious of any type of change to derivatives. Your take on that part of this proposed spending bill?
Sure, and I'm suspicious of anything that has to do with Wall Street. Don't get me wrong. There's not many things that Ms. Warren and I agree on. But I'm really not sure where she's coming from in this particular circumstance. I'm going to vote against the bill, as she is, but my guess is we'll do it for two very, very different reasons. Derivatives, as you know, JD, are something that actually make a lot of sense. Farmers use them. Transportation companies use them. You use them to sort of know what your future costs look like. And there were a lot of rules in Dodd-Frank that were intended to prevent what some people consider to be dangerous derivative trading that actually wrapped up in those rules good derivative trading. I mean, farmers should be able to hedge their future prices and their future costs. And Dodd-Frank was never intended to do that. Farmers did not cause the financial meltdown. So fixing that, I think, is probably a good thing. Which goes to a larger point. There's a lot of good stuff in this bill. I mean, goodness gracious, if you can't put some good stuff in a 1,600-page bill, you shouldn't be doing the job. The reason that so many conservatives, myself and many of your folks from out west, are against the bill is because of how it fails to address the president's amnesty. There's a lot of good stuff in the bill. The spending levels are right for conservatives. It's one of the lowest spending levels in a long time. The EPA gets less money. The IRS gets less money. A lot of the EPA rules that deal with the regulation of drainage ditches go away. There's some good stuff here. But the point of the matter is it doesn't address the president's executive amnesty, and that's why so many of us are so upset.
3 minutes remain in time allotted for our conversation, Mick, and we really do appreciate your time. On the matter of time, what do you expect today? I was hearing 3 o'clock was the time on the wish list for leadership to bring this to the floor. But do you think it's going to take a longer period of time to convince?
No, my guess is, and as I turn around here in my office to look at the TV, Steny Hoyer is speaking, so I'd be curious to know what Steny has to say on the floor. My guess is they're going to try and move it faster. The longer this goes, the more votes they will lose, which is not unusual. A bill that's 1,600 pages long, and people actually, the longer they have to read it, find stuff that buried in there that they don't like. The bottom line here, JD, is that, and the leadership's very candid about this, they are relying on Democrats to help them pass this bill out of the House. I've always contended that is a dangerous thing to do. Republican conservatives are much more reliable. You come and you cut a deal with us, we keep to our word. The Democrats have let them down several times in the past. If they make that mistake again, we may see the bill go down on the floor. But either way, we'll know before 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon.
How many of your conservative colleagues do you estimate will join you in voting no on this bill?
You know, that's a great question. I'm going to give you the number. The number is 50, but it's not just conservatives. There are moderates in the party who are so upset by the president's executive action that they are breaking with leadership to vote no on this, which is a huge development for us. Ordinarily, it would be the 25 or 30 same conservatives that you probably could name off of, on both hands. But it's a much broader opposition here. So my guess is they may lose north of 50 votes.
With a minute remaining, Mick Mulvaney, we talk about the process. A 1,600-page bill. The details not fully disclosed. You've got the staff poring over it. What do you think the view is of Congress post-election and pre-Cromnibus vote? Are the people looking at this going, up, there they go again, business as usual? And how does that relate to the threatened, quote, shutdown?
Well, let me answer it this way. I'm looking at Congress as, oh, there they go again, it's business as usual. My fear is that my leadership did not take the same message that I took from the election. I was told, my message from my election was, you got to push a little bit harder. You got to work against the president. We have to stop what he's doing. Other people say the message was, well, no, we all have to work together. Whatever you believe, however, whatever you believe about the election, no one will say that the point of the election was that we need more executive orders, and why we're not fighting it now, I don't understand.
Mick Mulvaney, Republican congressman from South Carolina. Sir, we thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, JD.
So you heard what Mick had to say. Agree or disagree? Why don't you tweet me at NewsmaxTV, #America's Forum.